decolonization is not a metaphor. It's not some like quirky slogan. No, decolonization also isn't a one and done type of situation. Like, no, you are in a long-term relationship with that bitch.
Yeah.
That is your life partner. Like, if you're actually about it. You cannot rely on natives or other racialized people to decolonize for you or to hold your hand and walk you through what it means to constantly be decolonizing, to constantly be learning and unlearning truths and mistruths.
Welcome to Quest, a journey to wellness. My name is V, aka Vanessa. I'm a two-spirit human, joy influencer, energy worker, and dad joke connoisseur. All pronouns accepted.
And my name is Alina. I use she, her pronouns. I am a cat lady, queer, your empirical evidence bae, and I like to keep it funky, 420, and am often guilty of romanticizing.
Come on a quest to find out what wellness really means. You'll hear stories from queer folks and allies who've successfully taken their happiness and well-being into their own hands by examining what they have found helpful along the way.
If you're curious about wellness, this is our open platform for queer stories, interesting science, and other folks' alternative wellness practices.
We hope this podcast brings you joy where you'll learn, laugh, heal, and grow.
Welcome back, queer kittens. We are so delighted to be hanging out with your ear bowls again.
Yeah.
I don't know if ear bowls is a thing, but my mom would say ear bowls like they were eyeballs. So that's what we're rolling with.
I love it.
We got a really fun episode, truly a joy. And I mean, we talk about all kinds of fun stuff like play and queer life, but this one particularly fun and beautiful. Today, we are talking about re-indigenizing your life. And I'm fucking stoked. It's a great time. Yeah, V, please tell us more about this.
It's that time of year again. Wonderful, wonderful time of year.
It sure is.
For those of y'all that don't know, I am Yaqui and Hopi, which are indigenous peoples in the good old Americas, and Mexican and Filipino. And, you know, the holidays are a little questionable to me. These colonial capitalistic dates on the calendar that have so much importance to them. We thought we'd do a little episode on that.
Absolutely. It looms over us all. We all know it. Hopefully this could be a little reprieve from all of the things we are getting definitely inevitably bombarded with right now.
It's nice to see the holidays from a new set of eyes and also another culture. I feel like a lot of people get so captivated and let's get this big fat turkey and do all of this, and they forget where the holiday came from.
It's such a strange sensation because at the same time it is deeply tied into, you know, one of the few moments, literally like 2 or 3 moments of the year that we're allowed to make time for our family and our folks and where we came from. And I want to note that it's designed that way. People get these warm and fuzzy feelings from even me. I'm not completely out of the woods. I grew up in the church. When I see a little candy cane guy, I want to eat it. Like when I see gingerbread, I want that. When it's, you know, I'm pumping my pumpkin spice pussy on these like seasonal favorites. So it's deeply ingrained in our culture. And man, we get into that deep later in the interviews and in our conversations. But have grace, kittens. Be graceful with yourself. Just note your feelings, note what's going on. And yeah, it's going to feel a little mixed dude because it's mixed in with things that you are looking forward to, but it's got a history that is worth examining and worth learning from.
100%. Definitely agree. And you should be thanking your family all year, not just one day out of the year.
Exactly.
Gather with them more than once a year.
Yeah, this notion that you save it all, you know, one and done, check that box kind of mentality. We know where that comes from, guys. That's not That's not who we are as human beings. That was manufactured.
Definitely. And not only is it important not to just give thanks to your family once a year or just gather with them once or twice a year, have more intentional time, but also support Indigenous peoples, whether that is financially or by giving your time or simply reposting things that will help shine a light on today's issues that stem for generations, which also us doing this episode is shining a light on all the things that have been shadowed over or like overcasted by the holiday. And we want to give voices to those who no longer have a voice anymore and showing you and telling you, you know, about what's this holiday is really about. Like, we're not trying to tell you can't get with your family, don't love your family, don't think, like, we're not telling you that. Like, we encourage that highly, but we just don't condone using a capitalistic holiday to do so. You should just be doing that all the time. Thank them all the time. You know, we want to just make sure that we're getting those voices out and y'all are doing what you can to do and support and help, and let's get everybody out the shadows.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle of thankfulness. It's not one and done.
Yes. No, hit it and quit it. This is an exciting one. Me and Rafi, our associate producer, also my partner, we went to the Indigenous Red Market in Oakland. So it's like a once a month thing where Indigenous vendors get to sell their products, their food, their art, their music, just a lot of ways to support Indigenous folks. And then there's like ceremonial dances, there's performances. It was a really good experience, and a lot of like the Two-Spirit community that I flow with, they were also there, and we got to interview a few of them, and it really helps with the that little thing you and I love to talk about, our lovely imposter syndrome.
That old friend, not friend.
Yeah.
You know, it's always delightful to hear about when POC folks or really any marginalized folks are deliberately holding space. That is so incredibly powerful and so essential. I know we were kind of joking before, you know, we're prepping today. We're like, of course, it's that time of year, and y'all who have the earballs tuned to this podcast know what I'm talking about. It's that compounding pressure, end of the year, gonna see a whole bunch of people you haven't talked to and goodness knows how long, about to empty your whole bank account on going out and getting gifts and et cetera, et cetera. It's so salient, right? Like, it's just incredibly important to kind of, in our own little audio way, deliberately hold space and take space amid the chaos of all that's going on. Yeah, just planting a little spot in the ground for peace and for truth. So really rad. I'm so happy that y'all got to go to the Indigenous Red Market. Kind of just free flowing here. But before I think we get into anything additional, I know a big barrier for myself as it relates to the imposter syndrome is fear of not having the right words, not knowing what to say. That's a big barrier of connecting for me sometimes. I don't know if that ever comes across for you too.
Oh, definitely. It's part of the journey.
For sure. That's, yeah, communication. That's real gift.
Yeah.
It needs to be tuned, and it evolves over time. Can we add to the glossary for our listeners any words that we prefer to use or stay away from? I'll quickly say I, always hate hearing the word slave as it relates to diasporic African people, or even enslaved, although it is more technically correct. We're talking about folks that are captive, right? That are experiencing atrocious levels of abuse. No human is a slave. That's not a thing that we should put onto people. But yeah, I can only imagine that's true all the world over, right? For everybody who's like, I would love to learn. If you could please educate me.
I mean, shoot, I feel like even doing this episode alone, like I've even learned some stuff. Like Vic had said something in the interview about moving away from the word decolonization because it still emphasizes colonizers by saying the word colonization, even though it's decolonization. They have on their Shumi land tax thing, it says rematriate the land instead of decolonizing the land, which is really interesting. It makes it more of like like let's do this instead of, oh God, yeah, we should do that.
Right. It's constructive.
Exactly. And that's why we changed like the whole name. Instead of decolonize your holidays is what our original idea was. We were like, let's move away from that. And that's why we were like, let's use re-indigenize, which Kenta came up with that one. And that was really good. Just saying your life instead of holidays, because a lot of these holidays, these capitalistic holidays, are actually like really dark times for a lot of different families. Just trying to have that sensitivity of not everyone celebrates everything that you do. And people keep telling me, hey, I hope you have a really good Thanksgiving, and I'm like, oh, you actually don't celebrate it. And they're like, oh, my bad. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but I do go to a powwow that morning. It's a sunrise ceremony is what it's called on Alcatraz. And basically their main focus is to do ceremonial dance and to thank the people that came before us, mostly the women who kept the bloodline going. So it's really, really powerful and sweet. And it's geared more towards indigenous peoples, but all peoples are welcome as long as they're respectful of the space. And phones are all off. There's no recording of it. It's just got to be there, got to be present, and got to be there for it not to make a TikTok or, try to go viral. We will put a link to that ceremony in the show notes as well. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out, I still just say happy holidays, even though it doesn't feel like a holiday. They already took away Columbus Day and made it Indigenous Day. And I thought that's what happened with Thanksgiving, but it seems like the calendar still says Thanksgiving. So everyone's learning. We're learning this whole process of even just this episode. We are learning. I love that you are open enough to even ask and mention that, because not a lot of people have the confidence to even ask.
It is a confidence thing, right? That's a little bit newer for me, if I'm being honest, depending on where you're at in your life. I think that's why personal wellness and personal self-talk is so important, because it begins there. If you're unpleasant to yourself or you don't have grace for yourself in your head, how are you going to expect other people to teach you and have grace for you too? And so you're living in this kind of hostile environment in your mind if you kind of let ego take control. But if you're able to sort of step aside from that and be willing to be a student of life and remain open in that way, first of all, it takes a hell of a lot of pressure off of you.
Yeah, definitely.
When you do that, accepting that at any moment I could be wrong about anything, and that's totally okay. Ego death, highly encouraged. Yeah, V, I know you found some really awesome quotes. Us at the pod are we love to exchange books and notes and snippets of encouragement that either come to us or come from friends. Yeah, is there any rad nuggets of wisdom you want to drop some knowledge on us, V?
I do have an awesome quote I want to share, but before I do, I forgot to mention the whole vocabulary thing. I wanted to mention about saying Native American. Instead of saying Native American, just say indigenous peoples. That's the way to do it. Because America is not a native land, calling indigenous peoples who have many tribes that are seen by the government and not seen by the government legally, we will be really upset by being called Native American, because America is not native. It was stolen land. So to be tied to such wonderful times, we don't want to go in that direction. So when people refer to themselves as indigenous, don't be like, oh, Native American. Like, no. Just hear them for what they're saying and try to avoid using the Native American verbiage, because we got to get away from that.
Our tool set that we're given when we go into school, from the moment we're with our moms and the words that are being for a lot of us, right, that are being fed to us, it is a colonial language. A lot of this that we're embarking on is, yes, for sure, like being a student, but also, and this should be an encouragement and less of a fearful thing. For a lot of folks, one should be so grateful to be a student and not necessarily responsible for the creation and recreation of a new language, which is also an honor. And I love working on and doing that stuff with you, V. It's so funny because a lot of these things are actually much more simplistic and less mysterious than maybe they are led to believe to be. If you think about it logically, there wasn't the nation of America natively before colonialization.
Exactly.
You know, like if you just apply some simple logic and consider like, oh, many nations were there, at different points, certain folks had control over parts of territories and then didn't. And just like the rest of the world, right? Like regular life happened. And it's about getting back to that. It's about reaching into deep within ourselves and our communities and pulling out those ancient ingredients that were awesome and really worked for us and bringing those back and, finding those new ingredients that are also working for us and are informed by our modern era and mixing those together. And yeah, that's the beauty of it, is that creation, that new language that we're getting to be part of and getting to forge. Like, that's what community means, is creating that.
Definitely. And the power of language is really interesting, because I think seeing how a lot of people are waking up and seeing that they need to get it right and be a little bit more, seeing the simplicity of it all, like you say, I feel that language has taken a big toll into the imposter syndrome. Like me growing up in Pico Rivera, all Latinos, and not speaking Spanish fluently, I was called güera. But then going home with the family, and I'm like the darkest of the skin and being called negra at home, which for those of y'all, that means a darker colored person. It was just like that polarization of going to school, being called a güera, and then being at home and the nickname is negra, which is not offensive. And for anyone who did get offended, I apologize. It's Mexicans. We just have very fun ways of showing our love.
Negro soy. I'm very proud to be Black.
There you go. And then that's also the part of how we're taking the power back with the language. Like how I sent that book to you by Jeremy Vasquez about, him with his struggle of his Afro-Latino-ness. And then you sent me that book of Latinos of Asia with the Filipinos, because I'm also not very connected with that, and how powerful that book was for you.
It was and honestly, now lifelong friend, Jeremy Michael Vasquez. Another funny little tidbit, we share a middle name, he and I, and you two share a last name, which is so funny. But yeah, it's the emergence of getting to centralize your identity and have those moments and explore those things to the fullest. It's such a rich history. There's so much there to uncover. Another part that, especially when I was younger and was really afraid of, was I didn't feel like I had the personal depth of really anything to be able to like go and embark on my own and seek these things out. And so it was very important to maintain peace with or be non in opposition of the elders in my family and sort of fall in line in these ways. There enough years have gone by that I kind of understand why I made those choices. I used to feel very guilty about it and very ashamed and frankly, like cowardly. But when I look back, I start to understand that there was really there's no foundation for me to really place my feet on. And so that stuff's very hard. And I realized going through the interviews and the folks you talked to, Vic and Kenta and Batul, ceremony and belonging, as well as language, right, is so huge. That is where the power lies, is rebuilding your own ceremonies, prioritizing your wellness and carving that space out for it, and knowing no matter where you are in space-time, you belong to this intricate story woven through, we stand on the shoulders of giants, folks that have done incredible, unbelievably amazing things. And because they did that, we have a better toolkit and an even better toolkit, an even better one. And we get to forge and help add to that toolkit. It's so exciting. It's so beautiful. When you look at it holistically, you also understand, oh shit, this is a lot of work. I need to be resting and well too, because I need to make sure I'm up to the tasks. Yeah, so excited for listeners to hear about how ceremony and belonging and reaching into that ancient toolkit and bringing those parts back. Yeah, hearing from them is just amazing. It's a gift. A gift this holiday season.
Heck yeah. Definitely. And maybe by sharing these gifts that these will be the new giants for generations to come. The whole standing on the shoulders thing.
Mm-hmm. I have no doubt.
And speaking of all these books and gaining knowledge, when Rafaela and I met, my partner, she had told me of a favorite book of hers that she loved. And we were like trying to find it because she was trying to get it printed, and she finally found it, and it came in the mail. And the craziest thing is a book by Carlos Castañeda. It is called The Teachings of Don Juan, a Yaqui Way of Knowledge. And she had no idea, but one of my peoples is Yaqui.
That's amazing.
Both of us were just like, whoa, like total shock, because all the music I was listening to was Colombian, and I had no idea. And then she's over here reading books about my people. So we were both just, look at us getting prepared for each other and not even realizing it.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's precisely what the finest examples of like human experience in life. It's so amazing.
And the first quote in this book on the first page ties into everything that we've been talking about. And I was like, ooh, we got to share that. You ready for it?
Please do.
Preparing the dead pipes. Fear of knowledge is natural. All of us experience it, and there is nothing we can do about it. But no matter how frightening learning is, it is more terrible to think of a man without knowledge. By Don Juan Matus.
You can simply engage with life, and it will have these wonderfully intricate, almost preset feeling things ready for you.
Yeah, definitely. Like I remember moving to the Bay and getting more into, La Raza and all of the queer Latin little get-togethers, community, like nightlife, but also like they would do barbecues and stuff. And I met Vic, one of our folks that we had interviewed, and Vic is also Yaqui. And I was just like, oh my God, I want to learn everything from you. I know nothing. I was just like, colonizers did a number on my family because I don't know anything about Yaqui peoples, and I would love to learn. And they're like, yeah, follow this, follow that, come to this powwow, come to that. And instead of like blocking me out and being like, oh, no, you're not Yaqui enough or any of that, like they embraced me and they're just like, yeah, like, come on, let's go, let's learn, let's do some things. And I think that it's really powerful to come from being in Pico Rivera where people were like, you're not Mexican enough. And instead of teaching me, they ridiculed me, to now meeting Vic and having someone be like, yeah, let's learn together and let's do this and let's teach other people. Like, it's just so beautiful to like that it comes full circle, and, that it's okay to not have all this knowledge, but in all of that, it's just like, yes, you're still worthy of that knowledge. Go find it. Go look for it. You're still good enough, is what I was like. The blood is still thick.
Yeah. Real life isn't like college. There isn't this like prerequisite class you need to take in order to be Yaqui enough or be Black enough or be Mexican enough. You know what I mean? But that makes sense logically, but we don't, like your lived experience informed you, right? Like growing up, you saw that we live in a very punitive system, right? If you don't know, what you don't know might kill you. What you don't know might hurt you. There's this idea that if you don't know, well, now you're othered because you better know.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know. That's how it should go. Is you pass that knowledge along. You don't force one into conformity or submission. I think how the teaching is done tells you so much about what you're going to be learning. A little flag we could kind of keep note of, because I know our queer community is, we're part of all other kinds of communities with various levels to access to safety, various levels of access to acceptability. Whether or not we're out or not is a whole other thing. Yeah, we're all about, sharing sort of these, just like the fucked around and found out chart. We've fucked around a lot and we have found out a lot as well. So we're trying to let y'all know so you could keep watch of those red flags and those green flags.
I love that. I got to look at this chart.
We lived the chart.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. Yeah, that's been coming up a lot. I know this is probably off topic or it could be on topic, but me and Rafi went to the L Word screening, and she felt like it was her welcome into the community, because she felt the imposter syndrome of being in the community, because there was basically hundreds of lesbians in the Castro Theater for the advanced screening of season 3 L Word Generation Q. And everyone's watching the shows and like interacting at like Tina and Bet's like interactions, and everyone's screaming and just like really into it. And she was like, I've made it. I am truly part of the community.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It was really sweet.
Yes. Yeah, I love when that moment happens where you're just like, you're sharing something that is special in the room, and it can't be recreated because it's with those exact people at that exact time. That's just yet another beautifully awesome gift we get from community. It's worth going out there and trying to find your community, no matter how quote unquote awkward you may come across or you think you're coming across. Because let's be real, it's always way more played up in your head than it is in real life. So long as you're open and kind, lead with kindness, like the right people will always receive you.
Oh, 100. Oh, I love that. Hearts magnetized to hearts, for sure. That makes me want to read the other quote.
Go for it.
Yeah, there was another quote while searching and finding the right ones, and it says, ask questions from your heart and you will be answered from the heart. And that's by the Omaha tribe.
Yeah, it all it takes is good faith. We also live in a world, naturally, since our things are a bit not a bit, they're very punitive. Our language is what it is. I think that sometimes we get bad faith questions, right? I'm sure we've all have been asked a question where it's like, you already know the answer, or you're fishing for a particular answer, or there's an agenda attached to the question.
Yep.
And I'll say, kittens, you don't have to answer those questions. You don't have to give a fucking answer at all. In fact, if it's helpful to your safety, you can lie. I encourage it. You don't owe them the fucking truth. They're asking in bad faith. Your heart is fucking beautiful and precious, and there's like awesome, beautiful, precious people waiting to like share and connect with you. Like, don't always feel like you have to be the warrior, right, or prove the point. Sometimes there's nothing more infuriating to the capitalist forces, the oppressive forces, than our community having a great fucking time and enjoying ourselves and thriving and being healthy. Like, that is the biggest punch in the face to all of these oppressive forces, is just joy, choosing joy. Don't be scared to ask those questions. Like, ask them. There's a bunch of buttholes asking bad faith questions, and you know what? They're going to continue doing that because that's what they do. So you need to do you and enjoy yourself.
Yes, everything there. I want to like start my day off listening to that whole conversation, that whole like part right there of what you just said. I was like, I'm going to start my day with that.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Now that you've said all of these wonderful nuggets, we've got a lot of other nuggets coming from some wonderful two-spirit humans that I got to interview at the Indigenous Red Market. Vic doing big things in the community with the Shumi land tax and multiple other projects they have under their wing, under the table. I don't know the saying.
Hey, we're making new languages.
Right, that's right. Power language. That's right. And Batul, True Heart, does a lot of medicinal medicines using flowers and all of that, of just helping people, like Florida water, and also kind of like the little tincture that you put under your tongue, that the florals kind of help you with anxiety, and it brings you present in the moment, like, oh, I'm sitting in anxiety, but to have compassion for yourself and slow down and be like accepting that it's there, not trying to get rid of it. And so it's really wonderful. There's a lot of teachings that I feel like each time I talk to that human that I learn, and it's really wonderful. Kenta is just, I have so many words, but no words all at the same moment, just because of how amazing of a human this soul is. Have you ever met one of those people where you're just like, I don't think I've ever seen them mad. I don't think they can get mad. If they get mad, like, I don't even think it's going to be really that scary. Not that it's not going to be scary, but I feel like there's not a mean bone in their body. Like, they're just so sweet and just so genuine and
just like purely peace.
Yeah, like a walking light. I'm really excited for everybody to hear all of this, and the fact of sharing Vic. Vic was like the L word moment for Rafi. Vic was kind of like that person for me, and to indigenous teachings and lifestyle and all of the things. So if you're listening to this, Vic, I'm calling you out. Thank you, or shouting you out, not calling you out. Power of language. Thank you. Thank you for being the wonderful human that you are. And now we're going to give you these wonderful interviews. Hope y'all enjoy it.
My name is Victoria, also known as Victor, and my pronouns are they, them preferably, but all are welcome.
What does wellness look like for you?
Well, for me, being the indigenous person from the diaspora, not only an indigenous person, but two-spirit, indigiqueer, for me, what it looks like is returning back to our gender roles, our gender spectrums, all of our different tribes and clans, coming back to that, coming back to ceremony, being welcome into ceremony. I know a lot of spaces we've been pushed out because of colonization and assimilation from over 400 years.
if you could give anybody a little bit of advice on how to decolonize their life, what would you tell them?
Well, first, I don't really like the word decolonize. The number one thing is going back to who you truly are. If you can't really trace back like who your people are, just be true to yourself and just listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, tap in with what that spirit tells you in your head and your heart. Always go with your gut. And then when you trust that, and when you move with love and good intention, you cannot go wrong. And coming back to old ways, coming back to your ceremonial ways, and just bringing everything that you can back.
Beautiful. And for those that are indigenous, how would you answer that same question?
Well, I will answer it by them respecting First Nations first. Be respectful when you come into our spaces. Don't culturally appropriate. Make sure that you always are honoring any and every piece of land that you step foot on Turtle Island, all the way from the bottom of South America, all the way to the top of so-called Canada, Alaska. Make sure you're respecting those people. When you move with respect, then you're able to move in a good way. And those ancestors of that land you're remembering them, so therefore you'll be walking in a good way. That's always a good way to start with wellness. Giving thanks.
Absolutely, absolutely.
My name is Batul Trueheart. My pronouns are they, them, and Apo also, which is, Apo is they, she, or he in our Yaqui language.
Ooh, I just learned something, y'all. That was beautiful. Our first question that we always like to ask somebody, when you think of wellness, what does wellness look like for you?
I think wellness to me is about connection. It's about connection with everything really, around with the plants, with people, with the elements, with animals, with myself, with creator, with ancestors. It's all about, making like a relationship, a connection. I'd say that's where wellness is. Like that's where healing is when we have a connection to something or someone else, I would say.
100%. And then what we're trying to help people, especially during these seasons right now, is how would you advise somebody to just decolonize their life? Whether that's an indigenous person by blood or someone with no blood. Wow, that's indigenous, not no blood.
Right. And again, it's a lot about connecting, but like connecting to the elements. Like that's a lot about decolonizing, like our relationship literally with water, air, fire, and earth. How to take care of all of those elements and how to also be in relationship with those elements. I think so much healing could come just from that. Just really remembering that we're related, that we actually have those elements. We're made of those elements.
All right, thank you. We're here at the Indigenous Red Market in Oakland, eating on some fry bread by Bigfoot Indian Tacos. Super delicious. We're here with my dear friend, Kenta, who I adore and love. Oh my goodness. Kenta, if you don't mind letting people know your name and pronouns.
So my name's Kenta. Any pronouns, they, she, like anything, just not he, him.
We got two main questions that we're asking today. Right. One of them is, how and what does wellness look to you?
I mean, I think wellness can look and be practiced a bunch of different ways. I think there's like physical wellness, there's obviously like emotional, mental, spiritual. So I think that that really depends. For me personally, I think what really sort of ticks all the boxes of like physical, mental, spiritual, emotional is any type of like cultural wellness. So being with community, breaking bread with community members, feeding others, just because like for me, food is such a huge love language, whether it's cooking for people, feeding them, eating with them even.
As I stuff my face with some fry bread.
Right.
If it's out on the land, harvesting, farming, doing whatever, even just like hiking, like sharing cultural knowledge, practicing language, like when I think about wellness, I very much think and highlight and put a lot of importance on communal wellness and communal healing. So like definitely always, maybe not always, but I think a good part of the time you should definitely be doing that within community.
Definitely. We actually our first two episodes. Yeah, our first two episodes are called "Community is the Cure."
Exactly.
Yeah. So we connected, right? Literally. And then our last question is, which this is aimed towards indigenous peoples and also people who are not indigenous. If you could give any piece of advice on how to decolonize your life, what would you tell people?
Oh, okay. I mean, I think that's like a good distinction. I think decolonization looks very differently, obviously, for all types of people, but especially for natives and non-natives, or even colonized people and people who like haven't been colonized historically. I definitely want to emphasize that decolonization is not a metaphor. It's not some like quirky slogan. No, decolonization isn't a one and done type of situation. Like, no, you are in a long-term relationship with that bitch.
Yeah.
That is your life partner. Like, if you're actually about it, you know. For non-natives, decolonization, I think there's sort of like a shared, more common knowledge of like what decolonization looks like within like, oh yes, like land acknowledgement. Don't be a shitty white person. Like, I feel like that's just like the tip of the iceberg. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond how you the education and the unlearning that you take it upon like yourself to do those things. It goes beyond interpersonal relations with not only how you as a white person interact with racialized people, but also how you in community with other white people, including your white family, have these conversations about race, about decolonization, about the legacy of whiteness and white supremacy within or like on indigenous lands. And so there's so many different ways, you know, even financially. Maybe if you are making that coin and you have enough, right? If you have enough to budget into your budget reparations, to budget in, you know, paying like Shumi land tax. And so really taking it upon yourself to do that work yourself also. You cannot rely on natives or other racialized people to decolonize for you or to hold your hand and walk you through what it means to constantly be decolonizing, to constantly be learning and unlearning truths and mistruths. As for indigenous people, I think that there is a difference between decolonization and re-indigenizing things, if that makes sense. I think that with decolonization, it's trying to remove yourself from the colonial norms that have been set. And like re-indigenizing obviously means like bringing traditions to the forefront, whether that be through language, whether that be through song, through dance, through all of the different aspects that culture is and culture lives through. But also, again, communally, with your family, with your community members, with people from the same tribe, nation, or community. And not only with like, oh, with the girlies, with the homies, with the friends, but no, with elders, with the youth, with everybody, because again, like decolonization is going to look different. And so that's why I think that it's important to like ask elders, like, okay, what does decolonization look for you? How can we as a community like propel that? How can we move towards that? And obviously that answer is going to be very different than like asking you and trying to find maybe that middle ground. You're trying to find those common threads and really focus on those things.
You know, the highlight for me, combined from the three of them, is basically having compassion for yourself while trying to figure yourself out. And being connected with nature, with other people, in leading with your heart brings you closer to yourself in these connections with others, in these connections with nature, in these connections with yourself. That was the biggest message that I got out of all of that, because I think that was the biggest thing maybe I needed to hear, and was to be nicer and more compassionate to myself in this journey, in this quest.
A quest, if you will.
What about for you?
Honestly, similar. It's just that was what stuck out to me immediately, was just the biggest barrier is going to be your own mind and your own feelings and processing the things that we are shown and are taught incorrectly, and processing out of them, and understanding that, yes, these things did have an impact on us. And as such, we need time. We need time to heal. We need time with our people, right? To learn what other ways, how else we could live. That there are other ways to be. And also just being brave and having the compassion and the self-trust to embark on following your heart and testing things out, doing, what feels good. That's something Corey, another one who is really integral to our podcast here, says, or has like a sticker on on his coffee table that says, if it feels good, do it. Which, of course, there's social contract involved there. But yeah, it's true. Following your heart. Ceremony and belonging are just actions that reflect that end.
I feel like the real big importance too of like giving thanks to all of the people that came before us that make it possible for this blood to be running through our veins today. Being thankful for everything that they went through and showing that gratitude and living our life through the heart is like the biggest, way to thank them for everything they did to make it that I exist today.
Yeah, that's so well put. I'm Afro Latine, I'm Black and Mexican, but I reap benefits and I gain so much by also embarking on that. And it could begin as simple as figuring out what land you're on, historically, what was going on before. And I think that there's so much. It could feel like you're maybe putting yourself in a vulnerable position if there's fears of not belonging or taking space that way, but it's truly so beneficial through and through. It's something everyone can learn from, and it's love everyone gets to experience, I guess, is what's so cool and mind-blowing for me.
It's interesting that you said that about like what native land you're on, because anytime I go camping or if I go like where I'm in nature anywhere, I use this website. It's called native-land.ca. We'll put that in the show notes. But I like to look at what peoples were on that land. So that way when I go, I like to take some tobacco and I like to like thank the people who took care of that land prior to, and thank them for allowing us to be on their land even for that time. And I just let them know, like, we're going to leave it better than we received it. We're not going to leave any trash, and just so that way, like, the energy is just like really good when we're on that land.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's really changed a lot. Like, I've never done that prior to, but I have a little spiritual sensei that I work with that has taught me that. And his name is Shake. Shake, if you're listening, what up, Shake? But yeah, he taught us that, and he's a practitioner in the, I hate saying African American as well. Are you comfortable with me just saying Black?
That's my preferred, is Black.
Yeah.
Because Elon Musk is technically African American, right?
What?
So we say Black. Okay. He was born in South Africa, and he is an American citizen, and he loves to remind everyone that he is an African American. So colonized language.
Oh, gosh. My goodness.
So I'm Black. I just say I'm Black because I'm Black.
There we go.
And
well, my spiritual sensei, Shake, we call him, is Black, and he practices with Orishas, but he is also very intentional with when he does workings on any land to thank the peoples of that land. So that website is really helpful to know, even where you're living, what native lands.
Yeah.
What native land they are. And speaking of adding show notes, we're definitely going to put Vic's information that they were talking about the Shumi land tax. Also, we will have Batul True Heart's Instagram in the show notes, where you can find a link to their store. go ahead and buy some of their wonderful products. And also, here's a fun one for y'all, because I forgot to translate it, but wera has a very fun definition. And I'm going to read that one to you, because we just want to make sure you don't go around using this word incorrectly or using it at all, because it is offensive.
Yes.
I Googled it, and the first one that came up was omnidon.com. I don't know what it is, but the definition is fantastic, because it's pretty on the nose. So the word "huera" is the Chicano and Mexican Spanish slang, a term for a white girl. It's mildly derogatory and inevitably alienating, even if one applies it or finds it applied to oneself. So you hear that? Don't use it unless it is consensual.
Think about how many people we prevented calling somebody "huera" by dropping that. That's simple knowledge. It's all colonizer language. Who cares? Amazing conversations here. Eternally grateful. Send in, y'all, all the love and warm and fuzzies throughout this season, because it is just a season and there will be more seasons and life will keep on trekking. Have some grace for yourself. Have some grace for others. Take breaks when you need them. We love you so much. Every she, he, they, gays. We love y'all.
Gay men. And if you're on your own quest to wellness and you're looking for help, we are a resource for you. It's about the journey, not a destination. You are more than welcome to reach out to me on my Instagram. I do some energy and healing work, but if I'm unable to help you, then I can point you in the direction of another awesome resource.
And you can find us on Instagram at Quest Wellness Pod. You could also find me being oversharing and unhinged online at alina.thecomrade. We have so much more to explore and share with you on our podcast, and we hope you follow us in our quest to wellness. Tap that follow or subscribe button to get every episode as soon as it's released.
And we'd love to get your feedback also. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a rating and review. It only takes 30 seconds, but this really helps us to know what resonates and how we can help you.
All right, goodbye, she's, he's, theys, gays, and allies.
I love that. This podcast was produced in collaboration by Kanoko Chocolates and Puka Puka Creative.
And executive producers Stevie Kwa and Corey Houston.
Producer, writer, editor, and sound designer, the amazing Leah Jackson.
And associate producer Rafaela Lendestoy. Original music was produced by Basque. He is an amazing musician, and he's also our cousin, third amigo. Let's go. Boo, 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 boo.
And we can't forget the emotional support by Frankie, Ruby, the Braithwaite Kittens,
Meow.
and Pukalani.
And Alina, can we just backtrack for a second? Did you say holiday spice pussy?
I was popping my pumpkin spice pussy on these holiday or these seasonal favorites.
The world is not prepared.
They are not ready. They are not ready.
I had Rafi crack you up next to me, and you crack you up in the screen, and I was like,
I know, it came out of nowhere, and I was like, wait a minute.